Good morning, good morning. Great to have everyone here. It's another Thursday morning, and we are here with innovative solutions. Every Thursday we bring you a different subject, and this week is about innovative solutions. So we have two very distinguished guests, Dr. Kas Ulifir and Isabel van der Burg, who's going to talk to us about how they are turning the tables on education. So it's going to be a really interesting event. Just to remind you all that as far as a disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed during this event are those of the host, the co-host, and the guest speakers, do not necessarily reflect any official positions or endorsements. All content is provided for information purposes only and does not constitute a legal or financial or professional advice. Please take cognizance of this during the conversation. But today what we've got is Isabel van der Burg, who's going to be talking to us about turning the tables on education and how she and Dr. Kas Ulifir are empowering educators to revolutionize learning. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion today. So before we start with Dr. Kas and Isabel, we're going to just go through the room with regard to the co-hosts and let them introduce themselves. Let's start with Marna. Marna, please introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Seems like I found my mute button in time. I'm Marna Roots. I'm the owner of a company called Inscorp Insurance Broker, and what we do is we play in the short-term insurance space. We love the transport industry, and so we are big in the insurance of port to port. So when you import something, from the moment it's on the ship until it reaches our port, we load it on a truck to your factory, through your factory, right to the end destination at your client's doorstep. And I just want to say I'm very excited about our host this morning. I'm really looking forward to learning more about what you have to say on education, because there's a lot of flaws in there.
Thank you, Marna. Great to have you here. Thank you. Let's go to Russell. Russell, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Russell Fagan. I'm the owner of a company called OrbSpec, and we focus on business development, coaching, reputation management, but I think the feather in my cap that I really enjoy doing is I've got a 12-week masterclass where I teach people how to sell. You can't go to university and learn how to sell. There's no subject like that. You can learn how to manage salespeople, but you cannot learn how to sell. So I've developed a program that thus far has been very successful with my learners. I am personally very excited about this. I served for 4 years on a board of a school and the chairman of that board. So I've got a passion for education, but I also saw the cracks in the educational system, specifically when it came to discipline and how they disciplined the learners that manifested at school environments and so on. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And Dr. Kas and Isabel, thank you for your time today already. And yeah, over to, I think it would be Glenn, I would imagine.
Hi there. Thanks so much, Russell. Glenn, please introduce yourself.
Thanks very much, David. Good morning, everyone. Looking forward to this. I must admit, it's one of my favorite topics, actually, when it comes to the things that I do. So I'm really looking forward to this. Yes, Glenn Jones, mentors coaching. I basically do life and business coaching, also do counseling and mentoring. But I really like to call myself your personal locksmith. I really believe that every single one of us has such incredible, amazing potential inside us, and we need to bring that out. And I love to unlock that and help you step into destiny. So that's pretty much me. Thanks so much. Looking forward to this discussion, Isabel. Go for it. Thanks, David.
Thank you so much, Glenn. So, a quick intro for Isabel and Dr. Ulifir. What I've met Isabel some years ago through the CEO program, as well as through the Miracles of Capital. We've both done the Miracles of Capital course with Dr. Wong from Malaysia. And I must say, Isabel has applied those principles from Dr. Wong, and I must say she's really taken it to another level. And obviously, Isabel and Dr. got together and they've created this program called Marvelous Minds, and I'm going to let them actually introduce it because they're the best people to introduce what they're doing. So over to you, Zell. Please introduce yourself and let's take it away.
Thank you. I've been mentioned so many times now, I don't think I need to introduction. But our passion is education. And the best way to actually introduce what Marvelous Minds is doing is actually take you through a process of that. So what we're going to do, if you give me the next slide, David, then I can ask you all, what do you see? And we can quickly discuss this slide.
Okay, I see a classroom. Two different types of classroom. One with the board and one with the electronic board.
Okay, what do you all see?
A teacher telling the kids or teaching them whatever they are busy doing at the moment. Looks like maths.
Yes.
One. And the children just looking at him. I don't know if I think back at my school days, I didn't take in much when they were talking.
Marna, you hit the nail on the head, and that is the problem with our education system. In spite of adding technology to the classroom, there has not been any fundamental change in the way we teach. David, if you can go to the next slide. That is our result. 48% of the grade 6s, that is an exit grade on intermediate phase, cannot read with comprehension. So we desperately need to change. And if I can introduce the core change that we need to do, it would be going back onto the next slide. No, you were right. That one is. I can ask you a question in this slide. Russell, who is speaking in this picture?
It's purely just a teacher. There's no two-way communication.
And who's listening?
The students are supposed to, yes.
Glenn, if I make a comment saying that the person that speaks, brain is in a high functioning gear, and the person who listens, brain idle, who should be talking in the classroom?
Yeah, no, the kids should be intact in a lot more.
And that is flipping the tables on education. You can go to the next slide. Thank you, David. So we all have the ability to think, but this can only happen if it is developed. David, you can jump again. As a baby, we all have the ability to walk. And as a baby develops that ability to walk, there's a lot of smaller abilities that needs to be in place. So, for instance, balance, visual spatial perception. And when all these little abilities have been developed, then they start to walk. I've never seen a person or a baby falling on its bum and then throwing a tantrum and say, I will never be able to walk. We have the ability to have grit, to stand up and try again. But we only teach children to be consumers of information and not actually users of information. And that is the fundamental change we want to see in education, that learners develop the ability to be a critical thinker, to be a problem solver. And from there on, have the grit to push through any subject matter. David, you can go on to the next slide. Glenn, what do you see here?
Sorry, I just had to unmute there. It probably is cell structure. Reminds me of cell.
Yes, and that is it specifically in your brain.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference between these two brain cells?
The one is obviously a lot more productive, a lot more used, a lot more growth.
Yes, that's right. According to Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she put it very basically, one brain cell, one function. So if I, for instance, can build a 4-piece puzzle when I was small, my mom used to phone the whole family saying, Isel build a 4-piece puzzle. And when I got to grade 1, at that stage, we only had to build a 27 or 26-piece puzzle. Up to today, the grade 1s have to do a 63-piece puzzle. So the requirements expected from learners changed quite a lot since I was at school. But the brain cell develops, and as it develops, its dendrites grows. So Dr. Caroline Leaf makes this comment, you only need 6 brain cells to pass matric. It's not actually that simple, but you get the gist of it. But because we teach in silos, our brain cells develop in silos. David, you can go to the next slide. But our brain's not designed to be taught in silos or to be developed in silos. If you can see there, right at the back, there's this cluster of dendrites that actually entangle, and that is intelligence. Intelligence is brain cells connecting with each other. Intelligence, you're not born with an IQ of, and now you're a genius. Intelligence is formed by how you taught. And we need to connect brain cells, create new brain paths. And that only happens if the learner is an active participant in their own learning and not a spectator. So how do we do that? Now I'm proud to introduce Dr. Kass with the thinking tool method, and he's going to tell you a bit about that. David, you can go to the next slide.
Thank you. We are all born like a computer which comes with a motherboard. This is our mothership of all thinking that drives all our thinking. So we normally start with a problem, as you can see there, the little small block, and then we ask questions, and then we develop answers, which are the little ducks that must be in a row until you get to the final answer. And in the meantime, you have some creative thinking. But I want to provide you with the bigger slide, and a bigger picture of the mothership of all thinking. And David, if you can take that away, because I need to look you in the face and talk to you about the mothership of all thinking. Thank you. The mothership of all thinking has, like a coin, 2 sides, okay? The one side attends to the mimicking, okay? Reproducing what you see now. Mimicking has to do with mirror neurons and how you mirroring role models and processes and strategies. Now, all of us, if you look at yourself, you are mirroring gestures, ways of thinking, ways of doing as your role models, your father or your mother or your teacher. Just in brackets over here, most teachers today teach as their teachers taught them. Okay, good. But that is only the behavioral part, because they have to teach different content. Good. Now the mimicking part is the how. We need to get to the what. That is the other side of the coin. Okay, so the one side attends to thinking and thinking strategies which can be mimicked and learned by. I saw Elon Musk is doing this, so maybe I should mimic that, but you can't do it with the same content. Okay, now what the schools are doing, they are only relying on this side. I'm getting to the other side. So what they're doing, they're using the how, the how for the what. So they say, can you see this is how you do the sum? You do the sum like this. And this part of the brain then gets overloaded. And as with the heart, once you get high blood pressure, more pressure and pressure, it starts to fibrillate. Now, a fibrillating heart is not dead, but it's not working either. Okay, so you get a lot of distortion in the classes because they are overloading the how part of the brain with the what part of the brain. Okay, and then let's go to the other side of the coin, which is the thinking tools part. Now, we are all born with thinking tools like analyze, and that is why mothers, if their child get at 8 months, 12 months, they start crawling, they close all the cupboards, because the children, the kiddies, are going to destroy, analyze everything that is inside that is breakable. They will break it. Okay, that means analysis is an inborn thinking tool. We have it. So what we do is we take that analysis thinking tool inborn, and we use it to analyze a paragraph or a chapter, and repackage and reclassify. So the one part of the brain is for mimicking, and the other part is for thinking. Now, this thinking part is a defibrillator, because the whole brain goes in fibrillation once it's overloaded. And on top of that, you get social media and a lot of other stuff that interferes with the brain's thinking. Now, the mothership, the thinking tools part has a defibrillating function. Now, I want to explain this to you in this way. All of you went through school with Asper, forgot their name now, with your 6 brain cells. Okay? What happens is, over time, successful people's thinking tools starts to defibrillate the brain, and that is why you're successful. It meaning that if you need information or knowledge or need to solve a problem, you create your own answers, or you seek answers, and that is what the mothership of all thinking is doing. It analyzes information, it evaluates information, it organizes information, it repackage and reorder for the purpose to have you as an individual have vision of your problem as well as clarity of your problem. Once you have clarity and vision of your problem is solved. Now, this is the problem with the school. They're overloading and they don't allow let me rephrase that. The brain, as I said, can defibrillate, but it is only viable, and it only happens in people that are strong thinkers. We can accelerate and exacerbate that function of defibrillation by teaching. To say, okay, you can observe how I develop a strategy to solve a problem, for example, a sum. Or how do I think? You can mimic my thinking. How would I write an essay or do a comprehension test? But then you have to do it yourself, and that you do the doing yourself, the solving a problem, that happens with the mothership of all thinking. So the teacher's function is to activate the defibrillation of the mothership of all thinking, in order to get the brain in a stable way, so that, as Isel explains, the neuron starts connecting. Because currently in a class there's a lot of energy working and a lot of, let's call it, brain noise, but there's very little connection. And this is what the thinking, mothership of all thinking, does with the two sides. It defibrillates the brain, so it can start using the mimicking part of successful people for mimicking, and the thinking part for thinking. And once those two merge and dovetail, that is once you start developing critical thinking skills and start flying your marks increase. As Isel said, teachers work less and learners work harder, and that is why we coined the concept of flipped teaching, where we enable the learners, the students, to do the teaching. We are only the conductors of the thinking process. That is it.
Wow, thank you, Chris. Isel, would you like to continue?
Yes, thanks. You can do the next slide. So in that, it's very important that learners must understand the why behind a concept. In mathematics, you can flip the next slide. In mathematics, we only see the nice part. We see the recipe. The teacher teaches the recipe. But the children or the learners does not understand why I have to follow that steps. And because I don't see the why, the threads at the back, I don't understand the concept. Every time you actually want to bake a bread, you open your recipe book. You don't remember the recipe off by heart, because you follow it. You never understood why must the yeast be get a time to fermentate and things like that. You go back to your recipe. And that's why our learners don't understand and don't keep or retain that information, is they don't understand the why. You can go on. So with Marvelous Minds, the thinking tool method, we have instant better understanding, because we start consuming, working with that information the moment I open my textbook. I don't actually just learn before the exam. My learning process starts with the introduction of that subject, so that in exam time, I just review, I don't learn. So it gives you faster learning, increased marks, and then it cultivates independent thinkers and problem solvers. And this is evidence-based research, and we see daily where a learner's marks can change within a term. You can go to the next one. And that is our example of Yaku. That Yaku started with us in grade 8. In his first term, grade 8, he failed all his subjects. He met us in term 2, in the beginning of term 2. He had to go back and put some building blocks of primary school education that was missing back in place. He had to go through term 1's textwork because he failed that, and he had to keep up with term 2. So in term 2, it's the exam term, and then he passed all his subjects. Just, but he passed. In term 4, He was a 90% math candidate, and he is currently in grade 11 and is in his top 15 of his grade. And what's interesting, Yaku is highly dyslexic. He needed in grade 8 reading help, in some instances scribe help, prompter help, support. And then as he worked through the subjects with thinking tools, he only needs help in science at the moment and maths and language. All the other subjects, he is totally independent learning. And for that to have happened with Yaku, what is the possibility for each child in South Africa? So, and that's I don't know if you have any questions, but that is in a nutshell what Marvelous Minds thinking tool method is all about.
Sure. Wow. That sounds fantastic, Zal. Can I? I'm going to ask. I think there are some questions that we have. I'm going to ask Mana. Mana, have you got some questions? I think you've got a question.
Yes, I made quite a number of notes here. I've got so many questions. Just to recap, Isal, in your view, what is the biggest flaw in the traditional teacher-centered model of education?
The biggest flaw is that the learner is not a participant. If you take a sports game, you have spectators and you have participants, and the players on the field can tell you exactly what happened in a scrum. The spectator can tell you from a viewpoint, and that is what's happening in our education system. The teacher is the only player in the room, and the spectators only have a limited view of their own education.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if I think back, when I was in school, a lot of teachers would take a textbook and purely read from it, and you would make notes, and nothing goes in. It's like your mind would go away and come back and go away. So your participation, I think, is key here.
And what we do is we actually teach in such a way that when come exam time, we don't prepare them thinking about a question. So in exam, we assess according to Bloom's or Barrett's. But then we never introduce the reasoning of Bloom's and Barrett's in the classroom. We only focus on information and in the retention of information. So when they get into the formal assessments, they're not prepared to think in that setting that questions have been asked. So what Thinking Tools does is it actually throws Bloom's upside down, and we work with Bloom's in the classroom because it is that evaluate, analyze, create functions that's happening within the classroom. So at the end of the day, they can answer any question thrown at them.
True. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mana. Russell, I think you've got a question as well. Russell, you're muted.
Sorry, I am muted. The question that's on the screen is my question, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. And I'm thinking that because I'm in the training space of in the communities and so forth with a non-profit organization. So what I want to ask is the thinking tools that we can most commonly use as adults now, because our generation has gone through this educational process. And I can't think that it was anything better those days, except that we were given a good hiding with a stick. So there was different motivation to concentrate in class than what there is today. But how can we take what you are doing and say, okay, how can I implement it in my life so that I can get a better outcome? Because I think I am still learning different processes, different environments, work environments, and so forth. I love the idea of critical thinking because I believe that in a certain way I am a critical thinker. I analyze a lot of things and so on. So this really appeals to me, but how can I sharpen that? If I may ask that question that has been originally, but is change it up a little bit. I don't want to put you in a spot. I'm just very curious to know what happens to the people that have gone through the process and how can we develop that?
Cass, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, let me go for this one. Okay. How you went through education was you took a chapter and then you summarized it. So the chapter must some way or another, come hell or high water, fit onto a page. That must fit onto a half a page, and that must fit onto a quarter of a page, and that must be fit into a small little set of notes, your keywords, which you wish you could take into the exam because you still didn't master the work. Okay, right.
Exactly.
Now this is working against the brain's wiring, because the brain is not a smaller maker. And I'll give you an example now. If I provide you with the word flower, you start thinking you would, I don't know, rose, branches, water, blah, blah, blah. So I can give you any word, the brain will make it bigger. So you're working against the wiring of the brain to make something smaller. Okay. Right, now comes the big train smash during the exam. Because during the exam, and remember, during your smaller making, you do no analysis, no synthesis, no evaluation, no reorganizing. You're just making it smaller. So you have less to learn, because it's kind of a way to protect your brain for going into fibrillation. Okay. Can you see? Which the system developed. Okay, good. Now, if you change to thinking tools, and you say, but if the brain is a bigger maker, let's use him to make a bigger maker. Okay. So what you do is, if you analyze, you take a topic and you always start to analyze. If it gives you any problem, you first start to unpack it, make it bigger. Okay. But the brain can also synthesize. Now, synthesize sounds like making smaller, but it is repackaging, getting another picture, another view, which is also a bigger maker function. So why you are successful in whatever you are doing is because you didn't stuck at the memorization of the keywords. You start taking a problem, you analyze it, you synthesize it. Each analysis part, you evaluate very carefully and say, does this fit into here? Or is it rather a part of a solution of another problem? If it's not part of the solution of this problem, let's park it over there, I'll get to it. And that is a strategic thinking, critical thinking skill that successful people develop over time. Now, if I go back to Isel's picture of the baby walking, let me say this. The cleverer you are, the cleverer you get, because more and more neurons are starting to connect. And that is why successful people are successful, and they stay there because they have the strategy, and their businesses are also successful because as good leaders, they start mimicking or their workers, their employers, their supervisors start mimicking what their successful bosses are doing, and they, within their own contexts, populated with the knowledge and analysis that they themselves created, which makes them owners of their own knowledge, and they don't work on instruction, they work on initiative, and don't underestimate the value of intuition.
Wow.
If I can make this summary just so that I can understand it, the way forward for anybody is to ask the questions. So I think that is, a lot of people don't ask the questions, and therefore you can't get into a state to analyze and so on. Am I actually putting it in a nutshell? that, whatever you
yeah,
is to ask
yeah,
questions
yeah,
and to evaluate those answers that you
yeah.
have.
100%. And the skill there is to start knowing which questions are the correct questions, and that's a
Yes.
learning process, because if you don't progress, it means that you ask the wrong question,
Wrong questions.
meaning you must go back. So that's also a learning curve, to start lessening your wrong questions and become an expert on getting to the sweet spot of each question and say, this is the question. Because in the school system, they're answering questions that are not real problems. So and that's why they don't progress. They're asking the wrong questions.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate your info. Thank you.
I just want to add on that, because we actually, in essence, replace explaining with clever questioning. So that as the more I scaffold you in questions, you discover the topic on your side of the, I want to say there's a chasm between a teacher and a child. And when I explain, I'm on this side of the chasm. If I ask a question, I jump the chasm, and the explanation is a discovery process on the learner's side.
I've just had like a aha moment, that eureka moment of, I've been working on my own for many years, and I realized that I'm not mimicking anyone. And, they say you're the best of, you're the average of the best 5 people that you know. And I've realized I should be with a person like Elon Musk. Yeah, sure. That was a aha moment for me. Thank you. Glenn, I think you've got a question. Would you like to ask that question?
Thanks, David. Effectively, you've both really answered this question already in terms of what does brain-centered learning look like in practice. But I want you to really just summarize it for me again, and just take it a step further in the sense that is this something that you do locally, or is it something that you do online, or can you do it anywhere, et cetera, et cetera? So I'd like to ask that as well at the same time. Thanks.
I think customers do the how it looks in practice. I just have an interesting comment that Yaku, our example, said, I'm in a classroom where my teacher does not know thinking tools, but I can see in what mode she's thinking, and I can adjust mine. And that makes a difference in that the practice is working.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. Let me explain to you how can you use a litmus test in order to determine if you have a brain-centered teacher or a traditional content-centered teacher. The content-centered teacher will say, please remember what I explained to you now, because you're going to get it in the exam, and then you must do it exactly like this. This is how the teaching works, okay? How do you identify a brain-based teacher? The teacher will put the topic on the table and then say to the learners, well, this is my mem. I would say, talk to me. Okay, and whatever they talk to me in practice leads me to see what will determine by means of their inner speech what they need and what they know. And that makes me formulating a scaffolding question, attending to what they don't know, because they expose it. I can in fact read their mind, and I know you know this and you don't know that. So I don't spend time on what you know, so I build on what you know, and I start asking a question. Now we have the practical rule that learners have a license to answer incorrect.
Naturally.
Okay,
Yes.
right? Because how could you expect from them to answer correct?
That's
Because
where they learn. Yes.
Okay, good. So if you get an incorrect answer, a mistake happens in our class. Okay, because the answer was incorrect. But who made the mistake? The teacher. I didn't ask the sweet spot question. And that's why it couldn't be answered. My scaffolding step was too big, or I must reformulate my words. They didn't resonate with the learner. So I would then say, okay, I hear what you say, and we say it, and this is an open discussion. Let me rephrase, but we don't just say every time because my question didn't hit the sweet spot. Then I rephrase the question until I reach my learner. And then he would say, oh, now I know the answer. Then he say, okay, good. If you know that answer, then I as a teacher know in practice, I must now go with a follow-up. Next question. So what we're in fact doing, it sounds crude, but it is a lot of joy. When we pose a topic, we throw the learners into a learning pit. And then we scaffold them out as we scaffolded David out of understanding himself and his, okay? So that eventually they get there out of the pit, and David, this is one is for you. They think they are so clever because they are so clever, but we scaffolded them. And this is where the end, all the feel good stuff in our brains starts keeping us teachers, and we get our joy because of David, who said, now I understand, this is my aha. This is where our joy as teachers come from, because our learners developed or created their own ahas. We didn't try to impose our ahas on them. There was a big difference between a traditional teacher and a brain-based teacher. They try to impose, and that is impossible. An aha is a personal thing.
Wow.
And the wow about this is that the teacher is on top of her learners' progress. So you don't only see the result after a test. You actually in class at that moment know each learner got it or didn't get it. And the one who didn't get it, we still scaffold until they get it.
Exactly.
And that makes all the difference. So you're in more control.
Absolutely. The growth I imagine is just incredible. Yeah. Thank you.
I would on Saturday we was it Saturday? No, it's Sunday. We had one of Mana's family come over, and they brought their 1-year-old child, and I witnessed something that was quite incredible. And now that you actually are talking about this, I can actually see what happened. So this child, 1 year old, was battling to walk, but was walking, and Mana gave her a plastic container and a utensil, right? And the child, first of all, took the utensil and was beating it on the table. And obviously I'm there sitting, looking at this thing, trying to calm myself down, not to say anything. But I watched the child, and the child basically was hitting the table and then hit the floor with the utensil, and was quite annoying. But I watched it, and then it took the utensil and started beating the plastic container. And then it put the utensil into the container. And I watched the child and was like, looked at this. Then it took it out and put it on the side, and then again put it inside the container. And then did it like a number of times, and then left it in the container and stopped beating. So there was a learning curve there that I witnessed, which was exactly what you're talking about. And no one actually went along and showed the child, stop beating the table, first thing. But second of all, didn't show the child how to actually put it into the container and what the container was for. The child actually developed and analyzed it and worked it out itself. And it was actually incredible. So that's just a very simple thing that I actually witnessed on Sunday here at home. And yeah, incredible. I love it. Thank you.
David, can I add something on that? On
Please.
the tapping, okay? We are all born with a chronosensor in our mind. Okay, the chronosensor tells you at what time is it now. We know it's early morning, and later on we know it's midday or whatever. Okay, good. The rhythm is part and parcel of getting ourselves, our mind, aligned with the solar system, because we detect day and night. Okay, and the learners who aren't aligned with the solar system, they struggle to read a clock. They know the 10 past, and so that child was in fact preparing her mind for some rhythm. Can you see 1 second, 2 seconds faster in a rhythm? So that is part and parcel of the inborn ability of the brain to control and defibrillate itself into a learning curve, as you explained. Just from your side, the vision, and I just gave the clarity.
Thank you so much. I have a question, and obviously this is from a Vision 2025 point of view. And, you know, at Vision 2025, the whole idea is, you know, identify what you need, go along and put a plan and a vision together, and then go and do it. The big thing is action. And from your point of view, what are you actually doing regarding actually helping people out there, students, etc.? What is the process that you're doing? What is available out there for learners? I mean, now I've got a 15-year-old child who I'd love to do this program with, but as a parent, and I'm sure there are a lot of listeners out there who are parents, how do they actually, what do they do? Who do they contact? What are you doing? What is a program that they can do to learn about this thinking methodology that you are talking about? Isel, you're muted.
We have a vision of having a thinking tool specialist in each school in South Africa. More so, having thinking tool educators in every school. With that, we have the Teach Differently program, where we actually train teachers, educators, tutors, to become, with a professional development plan, become certified thinking tool method specialists. In that, we also have the Dare to Learn Differently program for learners, and that is where CAS is mostly active in the training of learners with his whole team of thinking tool specialists through online platform, where they actually do the thinking tool course online on their own pace. But then they also have the option to have 4 Zoom extra math classes that's included in their package, where they once a week tackle maths in this question-based thinking tool methodology, and that is where the major successes are. So I don't know if Cas wants to mention something with that.
Yeah, I want to do some marketing. A normal maths class, extra class, costs you between 350 and 380 Rand per 1 hour. We offer 4 hours, 1 per week, with a specific group, and our cost is 350 for that, including the course, but that's not all. Included in the package, say we take, for instance, grade 9, there are about 70 recorded classes, all included in that, which takes our cost down to about 27 Rand per class, if I do quick maths here. And on top of that, we also have all the grade 10, the previous year's classes, which is another 60. Now we're getting to about R7 per maths extra class taught in the flipped teaching way. And because there are interaction, our classes are like this discussion. People are sitting there, they're analyzing, they're synthesizing, they're evaluating. So if a learner does a recorded class, I get to say, I'm so sorry the class is now done because I missed your discussion. It's like a movie. You feel you part and parcel of that flip teaching discussion. It's not a talk and chalk show.
Fantastic, thank you.
Sorry, David, I just want to mention our latest initiative is there's a lot of tutors in the market, and we experience a very big divide between the tutor and the teacher in classroom, and it can be more powerful if they support each other and talk the same language. So we started the initiative rolling out tutor centers, that's Dare to Learn or Dare to Math differently, tutor centers right through South Africa. In support of that, we started the Southern African Tutor Association for South Africa to actually put a bit of professionalism to the tutor market, and also that I'm dropping my child off at a tutor, but there's no verification that that's a safe place. We just trust it's a tutor for something. And
yes, and the internet, I would just complete this, and you don't have child minding, but critical thinking development. Sorry, Zelio.
No, that's fine.
Fantastic.
Thanks, sorry about that.
So I think there are quite a number. I've seen there's quite a number of people commenting, and that we'll go quickly through that. But before we do that, Mona, I think you've got a last question there. Would you like to just ask us, Dr. Kuss?
Yes. What I would like to know is what does the future look like? How do you see the future of learning evolving in the next 5 years? And what success would look like for you then?
Success on ground level for me would be that the teacher, after the learners wrote the test, won't pray about that the marks would be good, but beforehand know what the marks will be, because the learner already explained the sum or the whatever to them, so she has or he has insight into the brains of the learners. The next part is, I'm coming to the discipline that David spoke about at the beginning. The moment you start imitating better thinking and have to explain and identify, and I'm going to do what we do in the class now, calling your name Marna, I'm talking to you now. We with thinking to teaching, you don't teach a group. I call you on your name, respect you, and expect an answer from you, and that makes that learners don't, or a class don't go into a vague group, because in a vague group you create space for gangs. That is what happens in classes. And then they start interfering. So the moment I can see in my class now here, Izel is kind of what we call hyperlink, or try to distract someone else. My words would be Izel, and now she attend to me, and she knows I saw her. And I say, I want you to answer the following question. And in that way, we're alerting her that we're knowing her behavior wasn't good. Only she and me would know it. So there's a kind of a confidence agreement, which we don't spit out in the world. You don't take out learners in the class, because if you take out the learner in the class, you know what's going to happen. They're going to imitate it and they take you out.
Yeah.
That's the short.
Yeah, all the talking about learning just brought back a very nightmare moment I had when I studied HR at UNISA. And I can't even remember the subject I wrote. That's how horrific it was to me, the memory. I also used, the keywords. And I knew the subject, top to bottom, bottom to top, to top again. And when I sat there in the exam room, I could hardly write my name down. I sat for that whole session without writing one word on that paper. Well, your program, I wish I knew that then.
Yeah,
What happens in your brain?
Okay, now remember, in the whole preparation, you trained your brain to make smaller.
Yes.
And now the exam comes, and the exam expects from you to make bigger. Your brain is not trained to make bigger.
Yeah.
You get the point. And then you kind of struck a blank because your brain were not prepared and molded to make bigger. And you try to take the small stuff, but they just gone. Because the brain's memory is the brain's worst function. But what you thought out, what you experience, as you know, and I don't know how long it was ago, but because it was your own experience when you went through your own critical thinking pathway, you can explain the feeling, you can explain everything, so you never forget. So just to go back to Izel's neural pathways, once a neural pathway is bonded and developed and linked, it is forever. Like this one, you cannot forget it. So if it is not linked,
today I can't remember the subject's name. It was just that experience. I just want to never ever think about that again.
So part and parcel of our success is, well, my ideal would be to eventually go without formal assessment, because if you can explain to me now how the sum works, and I have your evidence in thinking tools and our specific use of maps as an evidence, you have the T-shirt.
Thank you for that.
Why must I put you under stress for exam? But let's go. That's a topic for another day.
Seems like there's a lot to talk about.
So thank you so much. I'd really like to, first of all, just take this time to thank each of you for being here. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, Dr. Kas, Olivier and Izel. Thank you so much. And also the co-hosts for being here today. We are nearly the end of our hour, so there are a number of comments that have come through. And what I'd like to ask is for Izel and Dr. Kas, if you could go and just answer these various questions that have come about. There are quite a few in the chat. They're both on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. And I'll send you the links. These are some of the comments that have come through. And you can see some of the questions that have come through, and and the support. I think it's incredible, the support here. People are saying this is something that's
really learning. Yes, we mimicked from practice. Yes, we did.
So what I'd like to do is just to say that we have this event every Thursday from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Next week, we're going to do business acumen, which we've got someone coming to talk to us about the benefits of actually using someone else's money rather than your own. So come and listen to that. And then the following week, we'll be doing again the networking. So you're most welcome to come and join us on that. And obviously, that's an international networking session that we have. So thank you very much again. And just before we close, I'd just like to ask each one of our co-hosts, and then I'll ask Isel and Dr. Kuss to just close. Starting with Glenn. What is your one word? Glenn, what is your one word that you would to just sum up what has been said today?
For me, it's just synergy. There's just so much synergy. It's like mind blowing. So thank you very much. Love it.
Thank you. Russell, your one word? You're muted.
I don't have a word of a sentence, and what the doctor said, learners have the license to be wrong. I think that's beautiful. I really, really like that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Mana?
I've got 2 words though. Participation and understanding your subject.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then Dr. Kuss, anything from your side? Last word?
I think we are at a crossroad, and you have to decide whether you can repeat what was repeated in the past 200 years and did not show success, or do you want to make a change and take the other direction and get our learners and our teachers to start becoming creative, great teachers.
Absolutely. And Isel, over to you.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity to have this discussion. I think it's long overdue that education needs a change. And I hope that this is a catalyst for things to come. And that you can't teach without thinking. And if we can start allowing thinking to be a resource, we will be so much better off in future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic week. And I'm just going to ask everyone here to stay on. We're going to just show a quick video. And please get hold of Dr. Kuss and Isel. You can get hold of them on the on LinkedIn or on Facebook if you go and follow those links. And also, you'll see tomorrow we'll do a newsletter summing up what was discussed today. So if you missed out, you can go and summarize and read that. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic week. And thanks to each one of you being here today and all the listeners. Appreciate it. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Thank you.